Hello and welcome to Tavern Chat, the daily, what do you want to call it, cast, yapping. My, I guess, my daily yabbering to the gaming community. So today, I thought that we would look at how popular virtual tabletop programs are, the various virtual tabletop programs are. And the reason why it's even occurred to me to even take a peek at this is because when I talked about Pathfinder, and I got all Pathfinder players are playing on Foundry. Okay. Well, first off, that's what perception bias. That's like, well, everybody I know in my circle of 20 players is playing on Foundry, and we're all guilty of perception bias, especially when it comes to things that we like, we enjoy, right? Well, everybody I know does X, Y, Z, but that doesn't mean that it carries across the wider world. So I thought we'd take a look at the Alexa rankings. Now, I know Alexa is far from perfect. Believe me, I understand that. However, it's a very good yardstick, especially when it comes to the more popular sites out there. So, is it going to tell you exactly how much traffic something does? No, but it gives you a good comparison rating. And I'm even throwing 10carstavern.com into the comparison ratings because I think it's important. Why is it important? It's important because if my blog is within spitting distance of many of these VTTs, then I think the argument would be they're not as popular as it would seem, except for maybe the big granddaddy. But here we're gonna let me now. Oh, and by the way, yes, the share screen is a pain in the ass. However, I don't have much of an option at the moment because my second screen is in a vertical position. Two reasons: it's where I read my PDFs, and it's also the amount of space I have available on my desk. My desk is a little desk. It's not a big desk, so I don't have much space. So I can't put it out in a horizontal position. It's a vertical position. So when it gets shared, it's sharing that vertical screen share. I don't know how I can adjust that. I can't embiggen it. So it is what it is. So I am going to show you, though, I took some screenshots of the Alexa rankings of some various sites, and I will mention the Alexa rankings of some other sites to put them in comparison. So, here we go. Now, up on top of the screen, upper left-hand corner, is Roll20. Roll20 has a position on Alexa of 2,468. Lower is better. Within the U.S., they rank 1,518. These are amazingly good numbers. So for those who say Roll20 is dying, Roll20 is not dying. For those who say no Pathfinder players are on Roll20 anymore, well, if that's the case, then there are no Roll20 players left. I mean, there are no Pathfinder players left because Roll20 is where it's going. Now, here's the thing. Roll20 kind of pads its numbers because everybody in the group has to log into Roll20. Therefore, everybody's going to the site. The site gets pounded, right? A lot of the other sites like Foundry and Fantasy Grounds, they use servers. So, you're going through a program. You're only hitting their website pretty much when you're signing up or you're looking for games. So, but the number this isn't like, oh well, they are literally 136,000 positions down the chart on Roll20. How big is that? It's magnitude. You got to think that when it comes to web traffic, it's kind of like the the earthquake scale, right? The Richter scale. The difference between an 8 and a 9 is a factor really of 10. Well, it's something similar, but probably even more extreme when it comes to web traffic, especially the higher place web traffic. So here, Roll20, 2,468. Now, interestingly, D&D Beyond is at 2,304. D&D Beyond is not owned by Wizards of the Coast. D&D Beyond is a licensee of Wizards of the Coast. I've got my thoughts on this one too. This is going to be probably for another episode, but I suspect D&D Beyond is either going to be bought out by Wizards or they're going to lose their license at some point. And I'll give you my reasons at a later point. You might agree, you might disagree. So, but Wizards site itself, if I can get the Alexa ranking to pop up on this, they've got so much stuff going on. It's not, of course, it isn't popping up right now, but I looked before, it's about 5,600. So the Wizard site is magnitudes, it's the great web traffic, and it's still far beyond, far behind D&D Beyond. I find that to be interesting. I would think that you would find it interesting. So let's go to Fantasy Grounds. Fantasy Grounds, middle column toward the right, 128,760. Okay. Well, again, they use servers, so you don't have to be hitting their website constantly. But the same thing goes for Foundry. Foundry is 138,364. Fantasy Grounds has 228 sites linked in. Foundry has 26, which is not all that great. I'm sure they'll do better. But here's the thing. Foundry's competition is not Roll20. Foundry's competition is Fantasy Grounds. All right? This is pretty much an apples-to-apples comparison, especially when it comes to web traffic. And I find that to be very interesting. It means that, yes, Foundry has come up from almost nowhere and is vying for the number 2 position as a VTT. And maybe for Pathfinder players, it is number 2. I sincerely doubt it's number 1. Those Pathfinder players, they're up there. They're still using Roll20. Despite, again, I'm using numbers. All right, I'm using actual numbers that you can look them up yourself. Because this is how you do actual comparison. This is how you can look at stuff and compare stuff. Not everybody I know that plays Pathfinder is on Foundry, and everybody I know that plays, I don't know, DCCRPG is on Fantasy Grounds. Well, maybe that's true. Everybody you know, but you don't know everybody. All right, we forget that. Lower left-hand corner, Owlbear Radio. Now, Owlbear is a very easy thing to set up. It has a listing of only one site linking up. I'm sure that's Alexa having a fart. But here's something to look at. I find very interesting. Foundry's ranking in the U.S. is around 77,000, and Fantasy Grounds is around 75,000. But Owlbear is around 25,000. So Owlbear is certainly, they're all generally in the same spitting distance, right? 128, 138, 145,000 throughout the world. But Owlbear apparently is getting more American players. Do I think any of them come close? Nope. Do I think any of them? Oh, fuck. What is going on? There we go. Do I think any of them come close to Roll20's numbers? No. Not for any of the systems that they support. I don't think. Listen, if half the player base for Pathfinder is on Foundry, first off, that's a huge number. But secondly, that doesn't say much about the Pathfinder player base. All right. Now, I see something else up there to fill this out, and I think it's interesting. TenCarsTavern.com is around 164,000, 163,555. My Alexa ranking within the States is 44,300. So that ranks higher than Foundry, and that ranks higher than Fantasy Grounds. And my sites linking in, according to this, actually is higher than Roll20. Not obviously Actually, it's higher than any of the things here. That's probably because I've been doing that. That site's been up for, I don't know, a dozen years. So 3 of your VTTs are within spitting distance of the traffic that 10carstavern.com does. That doesn't make them extremely viable or extremely well used compared to Roll20, which has an amazing amount of traffic. Even if you say, well, every group is logging 4 or 5 people in for a session, even with that, okay, even with that. Another comparison number, just for those of you out there, sites that we all know, NWorld, right? So what does NWorld come into this? NWorld's at 62,051 with about nearly 1,200 sites looking in. It's been around for, what, 15 years? But think about it, folks. Think about it. When you say, oh, all the Pathfinder players are, and I've been told, by the way, all the Pathfinder players are on Foundry. Well, if that's the case, then there aren't too many Pathfinder players. All right? Not too many people going to the Foundry website on a daily basis. And in comparison, something like Roll20 or D&D Beyond. Again, I'm not saying that your particular perception bias is wrong. It's what you're seeing. You are seeing it. All the players that you know personally are going to Foundry. Okay. But the average players coming into our community that are playing on a VTT, right? Or have been playing on a VTT, they're playing on Roll20. That's really what this comes down to. You can't deny that. If you ask somebody who plays on a VTT randomly, what VTT do you play on? Odds are they're going to tell you Roll20. They probably heard of the other ones, but most likely, again, random players. I'm not talking about players that you know from your personal circles of friends or circles of trust. That is different. That is different. These numbers, these are the traffic numbers for these various websites. These numbers don't lie, okay? I'm not saying that there aren't VTT players for Pathfinder. I'm saying that I think that the ones that are there, the vast majority are still in Roll20. So saying that the Roll20 numbers for Pathfinder games coming in at 5% of the Pathfinder player base is horrible. Maybe if the ones that were spread out to the other VTTs were included, maybe it would make up 10% of Roll20's player base. I don't know. We can't drill down to that percentage just yet, but we can say that Foundry, Fantasy Grounds, Owlbear Radio, TableTops.com don't hold a candle to Roll20. So I have a voicemail. Hopefully, get to the voicemail tomorrow. I'll be packing for the early Wednesday trip out to Dallas, Texas for the North Texas RPG Con. Hope to see some of you there. We'll be doing a live show on Wednesday night. Might do a few live streams on there. We're still in the midst of the world of COVID. Please use your common sense. All right? I'm not saying what you should do. I'm just saying take actions to keep yourself, your loved ones, your family, your friends healthy and safe. Be safe, be well, God bless. Roll those dice. Knock on wood. I'll be back again tomorrow. Later, folks.